Level 1, the pool beginner. Right now you're 14 and you can't get from one end of the pool to the other without grabbing the lane rope. You learned freestyle in June, off a YouTube video. You've been swimming 4 months and you've decided that's enough because you watched one Olympics on NBC and something happened to you. So you challenge Marcus. Marcus is the fastest swimmer in the school. He laughs the way people laugh when the joke cost them nothing, and he says one word. Fine. 50 yards down and back. He's out and toweling off before you touch the wall. 12 seconds. The whole deck laughs and Marcus says it to the room and not to you. Nobody panic. That's not swimming. That's just not drowning. He's right. That's the worst part. He's completely right. But Coach Merrill isn't laughing. He's looking at his stopwatch. Wait. What? You just broke the underwater record, but I lost. He points at the watch. You were underwater longer than anyone we've ever seen. Then he asks you the question that becomes the rest of your life. How long can you hold that? Level 2, the rising competitor. Merrill puts you on the team. That means 5 in the morning at Sandusky High in Lane 1. Lane 1 is where they put the slow ones so the fast ones don't have to look at you. Nobody explains it. You walk onto the deck the first day and the water sorts you before you say a word. Lane 6 is where the state qualifiers go. Lane 1 is next to the kickboard bin and a drain that smells like a decision somebody made in 1987. Nobody gets promoted out of Lane 1 mid-season. There's no mechanism. You'd have to become a different person over a summer, which is in fact the plan. You learn the 4 strokes and you are bad at all of them. Butterfly isn't a stroke, it's a punishment somebody wrote rules for. Your breaststroke kick scissors, which means it's illegal. Which means it gets called every single time by a man in a white polo who has been waiting his whole life to call something. Backstroke, you hit your head. You learn the other things too. That your practice speedo goes see-through around week 6 and everyone knows and nobody says anything, which is its own kind of kindness. That every distance kid carries a CV's bottle of vinegar and alcohol for their ears, and you don't ask why until you can't hear out of one side. Your times keep coming down. You are still the slowest person in your own lane. Then your first meet, and you get disqualified. Not beaten. Erased. One hand touch on a turn. You touched with one hand where the rules say 2. A man raised his arm, and that was it. The results sheet doesn't say your time. It says DQ. 2 letters where a number should be. You were in that water 6 minutes, and there is no evidence you were ever in the building. That does something to you that losing never did. So you stay after practice and do walls? Just walls. For 6 weeks. Open turn, flip turn, 2-hand touch, over and over in an empty pool at 6:15 at night, while Merrill sits on a kickboard clicking the stopwatch and saying nothing. He has a wife and a 40-minute drive. He never mentions it. He's just there at 6:15 every night for a kid in Lane 1. Marcus wins the 100 free at state that spring. It runs in the Sandusky Register. You read it on a bench in a wet towel in Lane 1, fold it up, and go do walls. Then a nothing dual meet against Norwalk, and they need a body for the 500 free. 20 lengths. The event where the crowd goes to the concession stand. Everybody in that heat dies at 300. It isn't a metaphor, you watch it happen. 4 lanes of teenagers who went out hard, now swimming through wet concrete with 8 lengths left. You do not die at 300. You win by half a pool in front of maybe 40 people, most of them related to somebody, and it is the first thing you have ever won. I might actually be good at this. Merrill clicks the watch. Looks at it a beat too long, the same beat, the same look as the day you lost by 12 seconds. Then he hands you a piece of paper. An entry form. A 2-mile lake race in July. I'm not entering you because you're fast, he says. I'm entering you because you're the only one on this team who gets happier after 300. You have never swum anywhere without a wall. Level 3, the open water racer. July, 6 in the morning, and 400 people are standing on a boat ramp on Sandusky Bay in the half-dark like a cult that hasn't picked a leader. Every length you have ever swum has been inside a black line. There is no black line. There's a boy out there you cannot see, and a man with a bullhorn who says it's yellow. The horn goes, and it isn't a race. It's a bar fight. 400 people funnel into water meant for 40. A heel catches you across the face in the first 100 yards. Your goggles fill and end up around your neck, and you're half blind in brown water with 300 people swimming over you. You learn the entire sport in 40 minutes badly, all at once. You learn sighting head up every 6 strokes like a nervous turtle, and that every time you look you've gone 40 degrees off, because a human being cannot swim straight and a pool has walls that do it for you. You learn drafting, which is legal out here and feels like cheating. You learn pacing, which in a pool is a clock and out here is a guess. And you learn the 2-mile course you paid for is 2.4 miles the way you swim it. Every watch says something different at the finish. None are wrong. Then somewhere past the second turn, tired, you reach for a wall. There isn't one. Nothing to touch. Nothing to stand on. Nobody coming. Just brown water and however much is left in you, and the very specific understanding that if you stop out here, you don't rest, you sink. That should terrify you. That's the part you will never be able to explain to anybody. So you quit hunting for the yellow boy because you can't find it. And you pick the one thing out here big enough to see through, chop the top of the Millennium Force at Cedar Point. 310 feet of roller coaster you can see from anywhere on this water. You put your head down and swim at a roller coaster for 35 minutes. You finish 40th. You come out of that lake grinning like an idiot with a broken pair of goggles in your fist. The guy who won is on the ramp with his head in a towel, furious, because he gave up 11 seconds in the back half and will be thinking about them in October. Same water, same morning. He got everything he came for. You stand on the ramp dripping and look east, past the trees, past where the lake stops being a lake. 20 years from now, that's where they'll be looking for you. Not in a pool, out there in the dark off the back of a boat. You drive home and you don't look up your result. The only name you'd recognize on any results page that summer is Marcus's, and it isn't on this one. You look up what's past a lake. There's a 6-mile race in the ocean in September, 9 hours east of your driveway. Entry is $90. You have 61. And you work the front desk at the Sandusky Y for $4 over minimum, and you do the arithmetic in the car with your hair wet. The stopwatch is in the glove box. Out here there is no wall to click against, and it took one race to learn it can tell you nothing you need. You register before you've earned it. You have never seen the ocean. Level 4, the Ocean Challenger. The first mouthful of the Atlantic teaches you something a pool never could. The water you're swimming in does not want to be inside you and will be anyway. You throw up a mile in. You throw up over your shoulder without stopping, because the only other option is the boat. And the boat means quitting. Feeds every 30 minutes. Warm Gatorade and a squashed GU in a bottle on a rope, thrown by a 19-year-old named Kyle on a rented skiff paid in gas money. And the rule that makes it real. You cannot touch the boat, not the ladder, not a hand, not for 1 second. You touch it and the swim is over, and a man aboard is paid to watch for it. The bottle's warm from sitting in the sun since dawn. Everything out here is warm except you. You'll drink 5 today and thousands more. And the smell of glacier freeze will put you back in this water for good. You finish it. That is the whole achievement. Kyle's at the ramp after with a major towel from his own house and a Gatorade out of the gas money. Nobody told him to. Nobody would have noticed. Driving you back, he asks if you know a guy named Marcus who just made the trials cut. I know him, you say. You mean it when you say that's great, which surprises you. You'll remember Kyle's name the rest of your life and never see him again. Then the ocean takes you. A 3-miler. Another 6, a 9. Then a 12 that costs 6 hours on both shoulders. 4 years of Saturdays and 9-hour drives east. You learn what 11,000 head turns does to a neck, a raw stripe under your jaw every September, still there at Thanksgiving. You learn salt swells your tongue for 2 days, so the big meal after is wasted money. You learn to spot a lion's mane, and that there's no point you swim into it anyway, and the sting won't stop for 4 hours. And you learn a fishing boat does not see you. Ever. 1 year a trawler crosses your line close enough that you feel the engine in your chest before you hear it. Your crew is standing and screaming and you hear none of it, because your ears are underwater. That is where you live. Nobody out here is looking for a head. 22, a 12-miler in September, and you go out with the lead pack because the front is still where you've decided you belong. At 4 miles you come apart. Then you lift your head to sight, and the headland you have aimed at for 40 minutes has not moved. Not a little. Not at all. Same angle, same rock, same tree on top of it. 40 minutes of everything you have, and you are exactly where you were. The ocean does not care how fast you are. It's the first thing in your life that isn't a competition. It beat you without noticing. So you stop swimming at it and start swimming with it angling across the current 30 degrees off the line you want, which feels insane and is correct. Then you hold one pace for 3 hours. You don't pass anybody. The current does it for you. The lead pack fought it head-on for an hour, and it walked them a 1/4 mile down the coast. You come around the last can 9th without racing anyone. Nobody beat those men. The water moved them. You were the only one who asked it where it was going. On the beach, somebody says the word for the first time, the channel. Then, because open water people can't help themselves, they tell you the price. The boat, the observer, a 2-year list, $8,000. You make $4 over minimum at the Y front desk. Saturdays, 7 to 3. You scan membership cards, hand out towels, and tell the same retirees the hot tub is still broken. Every one of them asks if you're the guy who swims. You say yes. None of them know what that means. That night, you email a pilot named Terry from a Waffle House parking lot and go on the list. The stopwatch spent every one of those races on a boat, in somebody else's hand. You're going to stop knowing your own splits for the next 12 years. Let me say one thing and then I will not bring it up again. A lot of you asked how I make this style of YouTube videos, so I gathered all my tactics for starting a channel like mine in this guide. If you want it, the link's below. Now let's get back to the video. Level 5, the channel conqueror. Terry the pilot, the Waffle House email 2 years and 4 months ago calls at 11 at night. Windows opening, be at the harbor by 8. All that waiting and it arrives with 9 hours notice. You don't pick the day. The tide picks it, the wind picks it, a man with a boat picks it, and you answer the phone. The rules are Victorian. 1 Speedo, the kind you'd wear to a dual meet. 1 cap, 1 pair of goggles. No wetsuit, not for cold, not for buoyancy, not for anything. You cannot touch the boat. And an independent observer aboard whose whole job is deciding whether what you did was real. 59 degrees. A stranger in a headlamp greases your shoulders at 2 in the morning on an English beach. Then you stand above the tide line, dry, alone, and wait for a horn. Then you swim toward a country you can't see. Hour 4, the water is the same in every direction. France is a rumor somebody told you. The only evidence you're moving is a boat that would be there anyway. Hour 6, you start seeing things. The light off the hull becomes a lane line and you catch yourself following it. Then, 30 feet down Merrill's stopwatch, face up on the seafloor, still running. You know it isn't there. You look anyway. You look twice. Hour 9, you can see France. Hour 10, you can still see France. The same France. The identical cliff at the identical angle, not 1 foot closer in 60 minutes, because the tide has you and it's walking you sideways up the coast. 21 miles is going to be 30, the way you're being made to swim it. Terry leans over the rail with the megaphone and gives you the out, honestly, because that's his job. You can stop. You can't answer him. Answering means lifting your head. Lifting your head means stopping, and stopping is the only thing out here you're afraid of. So you put your face back in the water. That's your entire personality, delivered as one gesture at hour 10 to a man with a megaphone. You swim parallel to a country you cannot reach for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Then the tide turns. You land on rocks in the dark. 13 hours, 51 minutes. The rule says you have to clear the water entirely, and you cannot stand up. So you crawl. On your hands and knees. Out of the English Channel in front of 6 people and a Frenchman walking a dog. Then you lie on the rocks and somebody puts a coat over you. The observer writes a number in a book and closes it. That's the swim. And Marcus is on the beach. He's there because he tried it too. Same week, same pilot's rotation, retired from sprinting at 24 and looking for the second act everybody looks for. They pulled him at hour 3. 59 degrees took the fastest swimmer you've ever seen and put him back on a boat in 180 minutes. He's been on this side since Tuesday, waiting to watch somebody finish. You're insane, he says. Salt blind, tongue too swollen for speeches, you give him the only true thing you have. You're still faster. He doesn't argue. Yeah. He looks at the water. But I wouldn't do that. You take it as a compliment for about 6 hours. Then somewhere over the Atlantic it turns over and lands as something else, a diagnosis. Because the only thing you have that he doesn't is a willingness to be hurt. And that isn't a talent. It's just the one thing you can always spend more of. You open the laptop at 30,000 feet and start looking. Not for longer, for colder. Level 6, the endurance beast. The letter from Dover comes 6 weeks later. Ratified. That's how you find out it counted your name in a book in England that outlives you. Then you start hunting cold the way other people hunt personal bests. The ice mile first. 1 mile, water under 41 degrees, no wetsuit. A medical form, a cardiac screening, and a doctor on the bank in a Carhartt parka who asks 3 times whether you understand what you're signing. You do. That isn't the problem. The problem is that you like it. Here's what nobody tells you about cold. The worst part isn't the water. It's 20 minutes after. After drop, your core keeps falling once you're out, because the blood hiding in your chest goes back to your frozen arms and returns colder. You climb out feeling fine. You are not fine. You learn claw hands, fingers curled and staying curled, no working a zipper. You learn the slur your own name coming out wrong, hearing it happen, and not being able to fix it. And you learn the thing the sport doesn't print on the flyer. Hypothermia feels good right before it's dangerous. There's a warm, floating stretch in the middle that's genuinely pleasant. That's the symptom. That's what kills people. You start chasing the feeling. Then you do the thing you'll spend years failing to explain. You gain 30 pounds. On purpose. Fat is insulation. Insulation is time in the water, and time in the water is everything. At 31, you're heavier than the 14-year-old they told was too slow, except now it's a tactic, and people congratulate you for it. Your body is finally the right body. You got here by putting back every pound you spent your 20s taking off. Your apartment stops being an apartment. A chest freezer in the living room you sit in 12 minutes at a time. 2 suits permanently on the shower rail, so you shower around them. A wall of Gatorade and nothing else in the fridge. Vaseline on every doorknob. You stopped noticing years ago and nobody else is ever there to. After that, it goes fast. The North Channel, 53 degrees. Lion's mane so thick, the crew stops warning you. You finish unable to close your left hand. A night crossing, 8 hours. The boat light, the only proof the world exists. And you find out you're afraid of the dark. A double, out and back, and you can't eat solid food for 4 days. None of it is enough. That's the part you keep not saying out loud. The ice mile is where it gets away from you. You come out and can't say your name. The crew starts rewarming and you fight them. Not metaphorically swinging both arms, because in your head, you are fine. And these people are stealing something from you. It takes 3 of them to get you into the tent. You don't remember any of it. Not 1 second. They tell you afterward and you laugh. Nobody else does. Merrill calls a week later. He's close to 70 now. He gave you that stopwatch when you were 17, and he has never once asked for it back. Somebody sent him the video. He doesn't lecture. He never lectured. He says it the way he said everything for 20 years quietly, like he's reading a number off a watch. You're not trying to become the best swimmer anymore. You're trying to see how far you can push a human body. And you don't answer him. You sit in a parking lot with the phone against your ear and say nothing because he's right, and because you already know you're going to do it again. He waits, then lets you go. His stopwatch isn't timing splits anymore, by the way. You've been using it for cold exposure. How long you can stay in. The one instrument that ever proved you were worth looking at turned into a way to measure damage. 3 months later, you book the big one. 41 miles of open ocean, cold, exposed, never finished, and a weather window the width of a coin. You tell Merrill. He doesn't say anything either. Now you're even. Terry takes the booking. Terry also says something about the weather, and you decide not to hear it. Level 7, the 41-miler. Terry gives you the terms on deck before the start, flat, the way pilots do when they've had this one before. There's a front coming. The models disagree about when. The window shuts around hour 12. If it shuts, I pull you. That's not a discussion. You say fine. You are already not listening. Hours 1 through 9 are the best swimming of your life. You feel like the thing Merrill saw on a stopwatch at 14, arriving 20 years late. Hour 11, you're ahead of schedule, and you do the arithmetic on a record. Nobody holds the one thing you promised yourself you'd never do in the water. Hour 12, the sea changes character. Not bigger, angrier. The swell stops rolling and starts hitting, 6 feet and stacking, wind against tide, and you're taking a wave in the mouth every second or third stroke. Terry can't hold position. The boat's getting thrown and can't stay alongside, which means for long stretches they can't see you, which means the swim is over and nobody's said it yet. Then they say it. Horn, lights, Terry over the rail with both hands on the megaphone screaming it into weather. You refuse. Then you do the worst thing you will ever do. At hour 14, in a storm, you swim away from the boat, deliberately. Away from the only thing keeping you alive, because in your head the boat isn't safety. It's the thing taking this. 2 go over the side into a swell that could kill all 3 of you. One is a deckhand named Ruth. 54, 5'2", a granddaughter, a bakery shift on Thursdays. You fight them, and you are too weak to fight them. That's the sentence. The one you'll hear at 2 in the morning for the next year. Not that you failed, that you fought, and there was nothing in your arms to fight with. They get you over the rail like cargo. Hypothermic, seawater in your lungs, crying with rage on a deck in front of 6 people who just risked their lives for you. Ruth sits next to you on the wet deck the whole way in. She says nothing and doesn't let go of your wrist. There's a cut over her eye from the rail. Somewhere in all of it, Meryl's stopwatch goes over the side. Nobody notices for 2 days. The observer files his report anyway. 1 page. Under result, DNF2 letters more than the sheet in high school gave you. You cough for a week and it comes up pink. A doctor in Sandusky holds the x-ray to the window like it's 1950 and says aspiration, then scarring, then asks what you were doing out there. You try to explain it. You watch a man decide you are not well. Your shoulder won't go above your shoulder. Your resting heart rate is wrong for months. And there is nobody to blame. That's the part. No Marcus, no bad luck, no villain, no story for a bar. Terry read the C correctly and you didn't. And you went too far, because going too far was the only thing you were good at. You sell the gear on Facebook Marketplace to a guy who drives up from Elyria in a Pontiac Aztec, excited asking questions you don't answer. You don't swim, not for months. You're 34, and you have no sport, no body, and no horizon to aim at. Terry calls in November. He doesn't apologize, because he was right. He asks if you've been in. Number. A pause long enough to hear a boat engine behind him. You will be, he says. Different though. Then he hangs up because he has work. Second week of December, you can't sleep, so you drive to the Y just before midnight. Pool empty, half the lights off, the water gone that flat dead green it goes when nobody's touched it. You get in. You swim 1 length. And near the far wall your chest closes and your arms quit, and you grab the lane rope and hang there, breathing like a 14-year-old who's just been told he's too slow. Same rope, same hand, same nothing. You stand in the shallow end holding a piece of plastic. Then you decide to swim 1 more length. Level 8, the comeback champion. 1 length becomes 2. 2 becomes 4. Then 1,000 yards. You come back the way you came in badly, slowly, nobody watching. Except now you're 34 and everybody at that Y knows who you are, which is worse. The kid at the front desk was 10 when you did the channel. And the rebuild is the opposite of everything. You lose the 30 pounds. 3 years of insulation gone in a winter. You do catch drills. Body position. Sculling with a Finney's snorkel like a beginner. A man named Dennis, who swum the same 3,000 every morning since 1994 and never raced anything, tells you your catch is dropping. You want to tell Dennis about the English Channel. About the logbook in Dover with your name in it. About what 59 degrees does to a man. You don't, because Dennis is right. Then you find the thing that takes the floor out from under you. You never learned to swim well. You learned to endure badly. For 20 years. And called it a career. You train less. You sleep. You take 2 days off a week, which feels like theft. You get faster. Which is humiliating if less suffering makes you faster. The suffering was never the point. And you gave it 12 years, a shoulder, and 6 people in a swell? You stop asking the water what it'll let you survive, and start asking what it's doing today. Tide tables. Wind against current. Where it stacks and where it slides. Terry read all of it in a storm in 90 seconds. It was the skill you'd refused to learn, because learning it meant admitting the water gets a vote. 2 years later, you enter the biggest race of your life. 15.5 miles. Loop course, feed pontoons, officials in polo shirts, a timing pad. A stadium with waves in it. Marcus is there. 36, sprint career long over, second act in open water. That engine can buy distance on talent alone as long as conditions stay controlled. He has the speed. You have everything the last 20 years cost you. At 11 miles he surges, and the whole front group goes with him. You don't. The gap opens to 40 seconds. Big enough that an official turns to check something isn't wrong. Then at 13 miles the gap is 12 seconds. 12. The exact number off a high school deck 22 years ago when a boy toweling his hair told a room you weren't swimming. And you don't close it. You sit in it. For half a mile you hold 12 seconds and take not 1 stroke more than you need, because the water's doing something at the far turn buoy and you've watched it on all 4 laps, last 500 yards. The current does exactly what you knew it would, and Marcus swims into the middle of it, because he's never had to ask the water for permission. You go wide. Around it, on the outside, in the moving part. You catch him at 300 yards. You pass him at 150. You touch first, not by more, by enough. He finds you afterward, hands on his knees, nothing cruel left in him, beaten clean by a guy he lapped in high school. You finally learned how to be fast. No, I learned when to be. Your shoulder won't go above your shoulder for 2 weeks. The lungs never came back either. You cough in cold air now and will for the rest of your life. You knew before you touched the pad it was the last race your body would hand you. That's the other reason you didn't chase him. You only had one left. A kid at the barrier with a program and a Sharpie. 15 maybe. He doesn't want an autograph. He wants to know how you get good at this. You open your mouth and nothing comes out. Because everything true takes 20 years, a stopwatch at the bottom of the ocean, and 6 people over a rail in a swell. None of it fits in a sentence a 15-year-old can use. Let me think about it, you say. And then you do. For years. Level 9, the swimming legend. Years later. You're respected the way open water swimmers are respected. 12,000 people know exactly who you are, and nobody at the Kroger on Perkins does. It's a good ratio. You don't chase anything anymore. You teach. Mornings at the Sandusky Y, same hot tub broken since the Obama administration. 2 afternoons at the high school on the deck where a man with a clipboard once took 4 seconds to tell you that you were too slow. Then one Tuesday, Marcus brings his kid. He's in his 40s. The knees are gone, and you can see it in how he comes down the steps. The sprint career is a photograph in a hallway. He doesn't walk anymore. He stands at the end of the lane and says your name, your actual name, with respect, for the first time in his life. And he asks if you'd take his son. The boy is 9. He cannot swim. Not isn't fast cannot. Puts his face in and goes straight down like a set of keys. Marcus's kid is the kid who sinks. And Marcus knows exactly what he's asking and who he's asking and asks it anyway because that's what it costs him and he's willing to pay now. You say yes before he finishes the sentence. Here's the part you didn't plan for. Driving home, you have to work out what you were supposed to have felt. You go looking for it like you'd check a pocket. 20-some years carrying one sentence a boy said on a pool deck. And when the moment arrives to set it down in front of him, you find you set it down years ago and forgot to notice. That isn't forgiveness. Forgiveness would at least have been an event. The boy is bad at this. Genuinely bad in the way that's hard to watch. He gets through one length on the 3rd morning and hangs on the rope at the far end, chest going, embarrassed, and says a thing his father said on this deck before he was born. I'm not really swimming. I'm just not drowning. You crouch down on the tile. That's where it starts. And then you ask him the only question that has ever mattered. Merrill's question, from a deck 20-some years ago, while the whole room was still laughing. How long can you hold that? He wants to know what the hardest swim you ever did was. You point. Past the parking lot, past the road, east, at water he can't see from here and won't be able to for another 10 years. That one. Did you win? I came back. He asks what his time was for the length. There's a stopwatch in your pocket. There always is now. Cheap plastic, $11. You never started it. 20 years ago, a stopwatch was the only thing in a building that could see you. You're not going to hand this kid the same instrument and let it tell him what he is. Next morning, you drive out to the coast alone. No boat. No crew. No observer. Nothing on your wrist. 51 degrees. Cold enough to take the top off your breath and a horizon with nothing on it. You dive in. And you do the thing you've been able to do since you were 14 years old and too slow for a high school team. You stay under, past comfortable, past where a coach once stopped to watch and said, wait. It's quiet down there, and green, and nobody has ever been able to time you. You stay until the water tells you to come up. Then you come up. If you like this story, subscribe for more. And comment what story should I do next.